Mid-August already, another new week, another bright new Speedway conversation to be had. Welcome back to 360 Speedway. Hello everyone, come on in, sit yourselves down. A warm welcome, Derek Smith here, bringing you our latest episode from 360 Speedway HQ. Great to have your company once again. I appreciate your support, your feedback and your interactivity with last week's offering. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, let's get things underway and dive into introduce tonight's 360 team. First up, he's back behind the 360 mic. We all love his straight approach, which chimes with oh so many of you watching and listening. Let's welcome back on camera now, Mr. Nigel Crabtree. Good evening, Nigel.
Hi, everybody. Okay.
And completing this week's lineup, and another 360 appearance, and we're very grateful to him for it. The man with one of the most useful contact lists in World Speedway. It is, who else could it be but Phil Lanning. Good evening, Phil.
Good evening. Good to see you again.
I would love to scroll through your contact list, Phil, one of these nights. So collectively, this week's Handlebar Heroes, the usual disclaimer applies that all of the views and opinions expressed by us are those of other individuals and bear no resemblance to any club or entity or organisation that we have or are affiliated or associated to, something like that. Okay, listen, let's crack on. So if you are all sitting comfortably, let's dive in. No interview to start us off this week. However, we do have one to bring you. Look out for that in Fans Pulse Lap 3 of this episode. We're going to start with the best of British, as this Saturday night we'll see 16 riders battle out to win the Cab Direct sponsored British Final and be crowned British champion. Since its inaugural staging way back in 1961, incidentally, Barry Briggs was the first ever title winner with Peter Craven and Ronnie Moore, the other podium place riders. The British Final has been and ever present on the domestic calendar. Over those 65 seasons, even COVID didn't stop it. Spanning a whole load of rider careers and Speedway history, there have been some 32 riders who have won the prestigious title at least one time. So on average, every 2 years we get a brand new winner. Could that be a notable statement come Saturday night? 15 riders have only won the title once, 9 have won it twice, just 5 have won it 3 times, with only 3 riders, the great Ivan Major, the legendary Barry Briggs, and the still racing Scott Nicholls having more than 3 title wins to their name. The class of 26, which includes 6 previous winners, it would have been 7 had Dan Bewley reported fit to take part. More on that later, incidentally. We'll come to tapes this Saturday night at the National Speedway Stadium. Defending champion Robert Lambert will start as the red-hot favourite, but I have a suspicion that we might just be treated to a few shocks along the way. We will see in the fullness of time. Let's now have a rider-by-rider focus. If you're watching this before Saturday night's final, do join in the predictions by commenting below. If you're watching after the final, you'll be able to judge just how far off we actually were. Incidentally, we will be talking about the sensational news that broke this week, that the meeting is going to be broadcast live by ITV. That will be as part of Fans Pulse Lap 2, so please make a point of listening to part 2 of this episode. Are we ready? Let's go. So we're going to step through the rider field and assess the fortunes and the prospects of all 16 riders. So in riding draw order, number 1 is Anders Rowe of Sheffield and Oxford. He will want to make a strong impression in the meeting. He's got all the talent to do exactly that and feature in the top end, but undoubtedly he'll need to start the meeting much better than he did in the recent SGP challenge. Phil Lanning, I'm going to bring you in first off. Is it now about time, Phil, that Anders makes a bigger impression here in the UK?
I think he suffers from what most youthful riders do. The inconsistency is a difficult thing to cope with, and I think if you look at his peers like Tom Brennan, Leon Flint, Drew Kemp, they're all sort of suffering the same sort of problems here and there. where they have red hot meetings and then they sort of don't turn up in one or two. And I think that's just part of the process. I mean, equally, I mean, he had a disappointing Grand Prix challenge, although he did get going towards the end. But he had a great meeting at Glasgow to qualify for it, and he's been pretty good. I mean, there's times when he's turned up at Sheffield and he's been sensational this year, and but at times then he'll go to Oxford and he won't do something so good. I think when, like for instance, Glasgow or Oxford, he was quite disappointing that night. So Anders, you catch him on the sweet spot. If he turns, Anders could turn up on Saturday night and have an absolute belter and could be on the podium. He's got the ability, but I think like anything, it's just consistency now. And that's not being overly critical. I think every rider down the years, even the greats, have had their inconsistencies at a young age.
No, absolutely, Phil, and that kind of resonates with me, and that's essentially what I meant about Anders. So good luck to Anders on Saturday. Okay, at number 2 in the riding order in heat number 1 is 16-year-old Cooper Russian of Kings Lynn Pool, given a wildcard place to make his first ever British final, aged to 16. He has performed very well indeed in both leagues this season. Perhaps, in my humble opinion, unlikely to score too many, but he will love being part of the occasion for sure. Crabby, we rate Cooper. You know that we do. He'll love being part of this meeting, and he shouldn't be, and hopefully won't feel under any pressure, Nigel.
No, I hope not. Use it as good experience for later on. It's a tall order for Cooper, but why hasn't he done well this year? He's maybe just gone off form a little bit at the minute for both Kings Lynn and Poole. But to be fair, who expected him doing what he did the first third of the season, first half of the season, whatever? He was absolutely tremendous. It's a tall ask for him, but he will enjoy the occasion. It's a massive meeting for him, and he'll just use it as good experience because you know what? His time's going to come, isn't it? His time will come, maybe just a little bit soon, just at the minute, but he'll be okay. He'll be okay, I feel sure. He'll enjoy himself. Hey, and you know what? He can just put 1 or 2 under a bit of pressure, if things are right for him and it's going all right, he will put 1 or 2 under a bit of pressure. I wouldn't be surprised to see him finishing in front of 1 or 2 of the bigger stars. So good luck to Cooper. He's done fantastic this season, I think.
Thank you, Nigel. Absolutely nothing to lose, Cooper Russian, and if you're looking in, I hope you enjoy Saturday night. That's what it should be all about for you. Okay, next in the lineup, number 3 is Craig Cook, currently unattached, a former title holder back in 2017 and one-time full-time SGP rider, has the necessary experience and temperament. Don't write him off, although could the lack of race sharpness potentially be a factor? Phil, Craig's inclusion adds a lot of intrigue for me, at least on Saturday night. He's got the class, he's got the ability, and on his day, as we all know, he's a quality performer.
I think with Craig, as has been apparent for the past few seasons, it's all about motivation. And I just feel that Craig will feel going into this that he's not got a club, he's sort of been left out in the cold a little bit. And I think he's motivated, and I think a motivated Craig Cook is an extremely dangerous Craig Cook. I don't think he needs the laps. He's got so much natural ability. He's got the if he's in the mood, and it's on a track that he knows anyway. Bellevue, he knows Bellevue inside out. He knows what he's got to do there. I think Craig is a dark horse to get into the final and to get in on the podium, because I just think I think he'll go there and go, you know what? I want to prove a point. I want to show a few people that I'm in the shop window still for next season. So I fancy Craig to have a good meeting.
I would expect nothing less from Craig Cook. You're absolutely right, Phil, and it will really be interesting to see how Craig tackles Saturday night. And completing the lineup for what will be the opening heat on Saturday night, at number 4 in the rider field is Robert Lambert, not currently riding or attached to a UK club, of course. Starts as clear favourite to retain his title and win for the 3rd time. Currently riding on a crest of a wave and will finish in the world's top 3. Nigel, Robert Lambert, he has the most expectancy heaped upon him for Saturday night. He's well used to that, of course. It has to lose, Nigel.
I would say so. Robert's got, well, he certainly does, doesn't he? Is the outright favourite. Hasn't been Robert. I think it's been his engines. I just see him before this last couple of months, whatever it's been. he just hasn't seemed to be able to get out the starts to the first corner. You know, the bikes haven't been getting him there. I don't know, things must have changed, or he's changed things, and now he's red hot, he's on fire, isn't he? And he's got them engines buzzing as he wants them, they suit him. And Robert's got to start as red hot favourite. I know some people are moaning he shouldn't be in it because he doesn't ride in this country. I totally disagree with that. He's British. Just because he isn't riding in this country doesn't mean he can't. You know, he rides for Great Britain. So, you know, we're not moaning about that because we're pretty stuff right now without Robert, won't we? So, you know, let him in. He's British, get him in. And if Robert's good enough on the day, he'll win it, and good luck to him. I mean, I'm a big Robert Lambert fan in the GPs, so, you know, good luck to him. Go and win it, Robert.
Red Hot Robert Lambert. That's quite a nice nickname, Nigel. I might start using that moving forward. Okay, on to rider number 5 in the lineup is Adam Ellis, now of Northampton. Scored a whopping 20 points on his Foxes debut last week away to Ipswich. Another former title holder, that was in 2021. Could well sense an opportunity to have a big night. Phil, I see Adam as one of the dark horses, or the darker horses. I've seen him score a 15-point maximum around the National Speedway Stadium, granted a few seasons ago now. He should be there, or he should or could very well be there or thereabouts on Saturday.
I would agree. He's Adam again is a little bit sort of you're not always sure what version of him is going to turn up, but if the good version of Adam turns up, he's most exciting and the most prolific he's been over the past couple of seasons has been in Poland and on the continent. Bellevue would suit him. If it's going to be, you know, we're going to go on to Saturday night. It's going to be very dry. It's going to be it might be even on the slick side because of the weather. I think that suits him, and I think he, again, in that field right now, he should be a finalist. And if he's in a final and you come down to 60 seconds, he's got a chance. And he gets, because if he's in the mood, he can pop out starts and and he's quick. And that's, you know, at Bellevue you have to be very quick.
I think sometimes with Adam, you know, out of sight, out of mind, you know, we don't necessarily keep a close check on his progress or his scoring necessarily, and that's why supporters sometimes easily discount him. But for all the reasons that you've said, Phil, yeah, look forward to seeing what Adam can do on Saturday night. Okay, on to number 6 in the riding order is Drew Kemp of Leicester and Workington. Recent Knockout Cup hero for the Lions, won't lack in experience. He ought to be in the mix if you can find the speed and composure on the night. Nigel, you know, a little bit like I mentioned earlier from one of the other riders for Anders Road, you know, Drew, in my opinion, Drew needs to get himself out of the Premiership reserve berth, which is kind of where he remains season on season. He's plenty good enough. You know, I've seen him be untouchable on more than one occasion. Does he have the self-belief, I wonder, Nigel?
I think everything Phil said about Anders Rowe, I think applies to your man there. You know, he's been going really good just of late, hasn't he? The last 2 or 3 weeks, I think. And again, dependent which one turns up. If he turns up with the right head on, he can spoil it for a few, can't he? I think he's exactly in the same position. As Phil was saying, I think they're both pretty much on a par with each other there on that, I think. That's all I can say, really. I mean, it's very much open final, and it's there for, as much as I think Robert will win it, the other positions, I believe, are up for the taking, and any of them are capable of getting up there and being a spoiler. And that applies to your man here. So, yeah, I don't see why not. He can put a good show on.
Thank you, Nigel. You're right. You know, for the vast majority of the rider field, double figures of them, you know, you could make a case for any of them finishing on the rostrum on Saturday. Yeah. Okay, on to number 7 in the lineup is Will Cairns of Bellevue and Poole. A current Bellevue rider, of course, enjoying his first full senior season. Double figure scores in the Premiership hasn't been unusual, especially at home. And a spoiler for sure is how I would assess the fortunes of young Will. Phil, young lad, only 17 years of age. He's come on leaps and bounds in recent months in particular. He'll feel pretty comfortable around his home circuit in Manchester, and I would suggest he won't lack in confidence either.
No, he certainly won't. I mean, Will's a different beast now than where we were in the first couple of months of the season. He's found something that works for him, and his belief. And again, that youthful exuberance we're talking about what can be inconsistency. If you add a bit of belief to that, they can suddenly feel like they're on a crest of a wave, and that can carry them through different situations. But strangely enough, I don't think being at Bellevue does him a favour. I think that there might be an edge of expectation on him to think that he's going to do well. In contrast to what Nigel was saying about Cooper Rushton, where he's going there free of pressure, underdog, off the radar, whatever he does as a bone. I think Will probably, maybe himself a little bit, maybe other people, Bellevue fans who will be in the majority, you would think, will think he's got a chance of getting into the semi-final and getting 9, 8, 9, 10 points. Bellevue's such a brutal track, because you can look like a novice or you can look like a world beater within races, within corners. I think Will should go there with an open mind and go, you know what, if I get 5 or 6 points, that's a good thing. I don't think Will go there thinking that. I think Will think, this is my home track. I've scored good points here now and again. He's done well on the continent as well. He's been sensational in the Speedway Nations too. He's done well in the European Championships. So again, it's hard to predict what he's going to do, but I hope his expectation is lower. I think we should just bring that down a little tad and say, you know what, Will, if you get 5 or 6, that's a good job done, and that's what we should expect from him.
Thank you, Phil. Yeah. Perhaps more so than a lot of riders, because of the home track situation as well. There's lots of intrigue and question marks about quite how will perform. And listen, you've got to allow for the sense of occasion as well, because it's obviously a very big night for such a young man. And completing the lineup for what will be heat number 2, drawing number 8 in the draw order, is Dan Thompson of Leicester and Edinburgh. Could he be the darkest horse of all in the lineup? He is a big occasion rider, in my view. A rostrum place, in my humble opinion, is perfectly possible. Nigel, Dan can gate. He can muscle out riders. I've seen him do that. He seems to have developed a sort of inner strength, and I know you like and admire Dan, Nigel, but you could easily make a case for him making the final on Saturday night.
As you said, Derek, my thoughts on Dan. I had great expectations for him this year, and he broke his collarbone, didn't he? I think that's sort of held him back a little bit, but I expect a lot from Dan, I do, on Saturday night. Great kid he is. I'd love to see him up there in the final, and he is more than capable. I would expect him to be in the final. Don't want to put pressure on him or anything like that, but he's certainly good enough, and if he's on the right form, Dan will be in that final. I feel sure of it. Great kid, great future ahead of him, as have a lot of these kids that's riding in that tonight on Saturday night. So, but yeah, Dan for me in the final.
Well, I said up top, on average, every 2 years there's a brand new winner who's never stood on top of the podium before. So, Dan's got as good a chance of being that individual as anyone. Okay, into the second half of the draw. Now, number 9 in the rider field is Jason Edwards of Ipswich in Redcar. Now a well-established rider in the Premiership, has quality. He's taken scalps this season. He can gate, he can pass. Perhaps one of the more unfancied riders, but I suspect that he might use that to his advantage. Phil, to bring you back in and talk about Jason, he can gate, he can pass. Gavin Parr has previously described him as the best all-round motorcyclist that Gavin knows. But another who perhaps will want to push on a bit in career terms, Phil.
Without being too repetitive, but you'd have to put Jason in the same bracket as Anders Rowe and Drew Kemp. That on their day they can, if he finds a sweet spot in his setup and he can get out the start. Again, he's quick. He rode at Bellevue on Monday as a guest and didn't have a particularly good night, so he won't go into it feeling $100 million about himself. But I don't think him. Again, the track is likely to be different, and Jason. I've seen Jason have absolute belters of meetings, and you look at him sometimes and you think, wow. He's going to kick on now, and he'll be frustrated that he hasn't done that. But again, he produces performances, and on a track like Bellevue, he can be quick. And in that company, I think he can he can certainly make the semi-final. And once you get into the semi-final, it's a bit of a lottery, I guess. You can, so I think he's capable of getting 8 or 9 points, which might just squeeze him in.
Interesting. Good luck to you, Jason Edwards. Number 10 is Danny King of Ipswich and Plymouth. He has had plenty of moments around the National Speedway Stadium. 10 years already since he lifted the title. Enjoying a strong season. It's something we've talked about a couple of times on 360 this season. And he's got all the experience in the world. He's got all the determination, all the skills. And Danny too could easily feature in this shake-up. Nigel, we've said, like I mentioned on 360, we think Danny's riding as well as he ever has. He obviously needs to get himself involved at the top of the points table on Saturday night. But another rider who you wouldn't be surprised to see in that final shake-up, Nigel.
No, definitely not. I think, as you've said, Danny having a belter of a season, and he's scoring points everywhere. Possibly having one of his best seasons for a while, is it, Danny? I'm not 100%. Phil will know more about all the statistics than me, but I would say Danny's having his best season for a good while. He looks very sharp, always getting points. And if Danny's on form, I expect Danny will get to the final. Anything can happen. But Danny will certainly be in the semis without a doubt, and it wouldn't be no surprise to see Danny in the final. He knows what it takes. He's done it before. The occasion won't get to him, will it? He's just an experienced and he knows how to deal with it all, and he knows what's needed. So, yeah, I'll have Danny down for definitely a semi-final and more than likely being final.
At this rate now, we're going to have an eight rider final at this rate. Could Danny be king? We'll find out on Saturday night. Next up in the lineup, number 11 is Charles Wright of Redcar. He will feel that he probably has. He wants to make up for lost time this season. He's a former Bellevue rider. A former winner back in 2019. A very driven rider who, in my opinion, could go close on Saturday night. Phil, I just sense that Charles, and you'll know him much better than I do, I just sense that Charles might be the hungriest rider on show on Saturday night for very obvious reasons. He is a very hard charger and perhaps more rested than anyone else. Could that be a telling factor, Phil?
I'm not sure about whether he's rested, whether that makes a difference. All I know about Charles is that he leaves it all out there. Charles, he's going to give it everything. And there's a little bracket of riders after Robert. Robert's obviously red hot favourite. Charles is in a bracket of, I think all the past winners are in the bracket underneath Robert, and I think they'll all be there or thereabouts. And Charles is right in that bunch of riders. Again, people forget that Charles finished, Charles finished second last year, and so he snuck round the line in that final, and he rode a very, very clever race around the curb when everyone else was knocking lumps out of each other on the outside. He just scuttled around the curb and picked off a really big race and to get into the wild card into the Grand Prix, and that proves what he's about. He's clever. He can put it about if he has to. He can put his elbows out if he has to. He can ride the outside if he has to, and he can be clever if he wants to. And I think Charles is a podium place waiting to happen. Yeah,
I might put a pound on Charles just to make that top step, or at least the final on Saturday night. Okay, on to rider number 12, As Was. Let's talk about As Was first of all. It was originally, up until last night, it was due to be Dan Bewley, of course, of Bellevue, 3 times winner already, and an SGP regular, originally named in the lineup, and first came his personal announcement video last night, which I, as much as the news was bad from Dan's perspective, I enjoyed his openness and his candidness to inform supporters. And of course, the formal confirmation came early today that the British final has come around just a little too soon for Dan. Nigel, apologies, sorry Nigel. All Speedway fans have been willing and hoping that Dan would by now be fit enough to return to racing. This is the sort of action that we're going to be denied on Saturday night. We're seeing Dan in action in a previous Manchester GP. In your view, Nigel, he hasn't been on this Speedway bike for some time. Could the meeting have proved to be a steps too soon in any case?
You wouldn't like to rule Dan out, would you? of anybody round Bellevue. You know, Dan knows the quickest way round. But yeah, I mean, he's not rode for a few months. It would have been hard going for him, wouldn't it? Because everybody would have been expecting to see the Dan Bewley that we know at Bellevue. It would have been hard going for him. And it's good that Dan's decided he isn't ready, because let's face it, we all want to see a fit and raring to go Dan Bewley, don't we? And if it means him taking another week or two off, well, take another week. Do what he thinks right. You know, great prospect, isn't he? I mean, it would have been great to see Dan in the British final, wouldn't it? So, especially as we're on TV now, wouldn't it? It created so much interest. Local lad and all that, you know. But yeah, he's decided it's just a little bit too soon, and fair play to Dan for that. It would have been so easy to have jumped in and then think afterwards, maybe we shouldn't have done that, and maybe put you back another week or two after that. So yeah, he knows what's right for him, and he's done the right thing, I'm sure.
Thank you, Nigel. Phil, you know, I believe you've spoken quite recently to Dan. I guess it is what it is, but sensibly, I think everyone is in agreement now. He's pulled out of Saturday night's meeting. He desperately wants to be able to race for his nation in Warsaw in the World Cup final on the 29th of August. And I guess that becomes his new target, Phil.
It is. I mean, Dan was touch and go. I mean, I was quite pleased that there wasn't too much of an overreaction today to him pulling out. I feared that there was going to be lot of negativity about it following the announcement, and the draw was done on Monday. And I'm glad there wasn't. There was a lot of respect showed to him by the fans, which was quite refreshing for a change. And he can't put enough weight on his left foot at the moment, and that's where he broke his femur. He can't do that. He's been on motocross bikes and mountain bikes, but he's had to adjust the way he does that even to keep fit, because he just can't put that weight down. And listen, I think a 75% fit Dan could have made the final at Bellevue. I think he's got enough in him to do that, but there's no way. I don't think if it became a slugfest with Robert in a final, and by the time we get to that point, you've got to ride the berm at Bellevue. I think we're getting into dangerous territory there if you're going to win the thing. And Dan's whole motivation from the moment of the crash in Denmark, the only meeting he wanted to ride in this year, the biggest one, was the World Cup final in the Narodovi in front of 55,000 from Great Britain. That's been his motivation to get fit, and he should not put that at risk. And this has come a bit too early. He needs to just do a couple more weeks to put some more work on his left leg. People forget that he compressed his vertebrae as well in the crash, and that's not been properly checked out yet. So he's made the sensible decision, and the main thing for us, I mean, he has got to ride for Rosloff as well. I mean, you have to remember that's his biggest club is Rosloff, and he's got to ride for them against Czestochowa, his first meeting back. Then it's Great Britain, and we want to see him ride for Great Britain. That's the one. Because without him and the Narodovi, Great Britain have got absolutely zero chance, in my opinion. So we've got, if he comes back, and he won't be 100%, I think it'll be about 95%, but that's still going to be good enough for us. And so I'm just pleased. It's a really sensible decision from him, and I'm pleased he's done it.
Well done, Dan Bewley. Very sensible. Lots of love and lots of support from the 360 team, and work on that fitness. Next couple of weeks, Dan, I know you'll give it everything that you can to be fit and well for the big derby out in Poland, followed by that amazing World Cup final. Phil, if you just validate for me, my understanding is that Jake Mulford, as first reserve, will step into number 12. Is that the case, Phil?
I gather so. Yeah, I think that's a straight. Jake gets promoted from the reserve berth straight into Dan's place, which is a big ask for Jake. I mean, the good thing for Jake is, even though sometimes experience doesn't help you at Bellevue or some of these meetings, but he will go into that meeting. He has been experienced. He's been there, rising star for a couple of seasons prior to this year. And again, Jake hopped out and beat some big names over the last couple of seasons with Bellevue. He's no mug. I mean, Jake, and he's got a lot to prove, and he's not got a Premiership place this year, which would have irked him, no doubt, and because he showed a lot of progress. He won titles with Bellevue. Remember, he won Heat 2 at Leicester in the playoff final a couple of seasons ago. He really won flight of races. So it's good for him that he gets that. It's nice for him that he gets onto TV and he gets himself in the shop window. And I don't write him off for getting 6, 7, 8 points. He's capable of hopping out a couple of times.
Thank you, Phil. No, listen, I appreciate. I can remember Jake being in sensational form, and I mean sensational for Peterborough not so many seasons ago. And to your point, he's performed well in patches since that in the Premiership. And as you say, the former Bellevue rider. Okay, on to lucky number 13 in the riding, the riders' draw on Saturday night is Jody Scott of Kingsland and Redcar. He will want to transfer some of his high-scoring league performances to the NSS. Should be very proud, in my opinion, of making the final. Remember, I think this is. Am I right in thinking that this is Jody's first full senior season?
It is in the Premiership, yeah. So as far as he got his shot at Kings Lynn, he's been he came into Redcar, didn't he, last season? So but he's been really good. So and so again, he's proved this year for Kings Lynn that he can really hop out and can be a real danger man. And again, you have to put him in the same bracket as Will and Cooper, and just say he's got to go there and treat it with an open mind and with no expectation, and anything's a bonus. And one of those three riders will get close to getting in the semi-final. It's likely that there's always a shock. There's always someone you're not expecting, and these guys, one of them will pop up and get a couple of race wins and think, or even if they get 3 seconds and 2/3, or you can sneak in. You can if the numbers work out, one of those three will probably get a sniff of getting into that semi-final.
Yeah,
I think you're right there. So I think you're right. Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Well, listen, hopefully Jody will enjoy the big occasion. As you say, Phil, it's his biggest stage yet. So good luck to you, Jody Scott. Number 14 in the lineup, we're almost there, is Sheffield and Glasgow's Leon Flint, enjoying a terrific season, scoring strongly in the Premiership, won't be lacking in effort or speed. Nigel, Leon Flint, he's made significant progress again this season. He made big strides last year, in my view. I think he's stepped up another notch again this year. You just know that he will give it his all. That's just the type of lad that he is. Saturday will be his 5th meeting in as many days. Might that be a factor, Nigel?
No, I won't have that. Definitely not. Give over. These are young lads. Bloody hell, if they haven't got any energy and everything at that age, they've got no chance, have they? No, not at all. And Leon, as you say, year on year, he keeps on improving rather than massive, great steps. Like, he's just improved slightly every year. And I think that's better off that is just keep improving. He won't have no fears about riding in the British final, will he? He'll go there, turn up, and he will be in the semi-final. Definitely, he will definitely qualify for a semi-final. And then let's see what happens. But no, Leon, great to see. He's improving again. Another top British lad coming through. Bring them on. Let's have them all in. Let's show these Poles and everybody who's the boss. And these Aussies, let's show them who's the boss. We Brits are.
I like it, Nigel. I love it. Listen, Leon goes about his business very, very quietly, very professionally, but he's definitely moving forward all the time.
Year on year, just nice and steady steps rather than massive steps. And keep improving. Keep going.
Right, number 15 in the lineup is Christopher Harris of Kingsland and Glasgow. 16 years, would you believe, since his last national title success. Chris will fancy his chances based on his experience and his form and his natural ability. No one in the field will cover more yards of the National Speedway Stadium than Chris will on Saturday night. Absolutely, do not rule him out. Phil Lanning, only 3 points scored at that venue for Kingsland on Monday night. But knowing Chris, he'll use that as motivation to go big on Saturday night.
Ignore Chris Harris at your peril. Chris hasn't or would never say that National Speedway Stadium was one of his favourite places, but let's not forget that going into the final lap of the final last year, he was in front and somehow ended 4th. But he was winning that race, that epic race. And so if that's Chris on a track he doesn't fancy, well, that's pretty good going. And Chris didn't do much on Monday night for Kings Lynn, but Chris will find the big occasion. He will find something. He might be a slow burner. He might be someone who starts with a couple of thirds and then gets 2, 3, 3. He'll find something that works for him. He'll suss it out. I would be massively surprised if he's not in the final or if he's not in the semi-final. I think Chris for me is perhaps Robert's biggest challenger, and he just finds something. And this is what great riders do. And I've learned a lot about Chris over the past few seasons. I've been quite close with him. He finds something. Champions find something, and he's just got something in his locker. He's got something, a little bit of magic about him. And I'd be really surprised if he's not on the podium.
Old school Chris Harris, he just knows how to grind out performances and results, and that's what we love about him. Okay, we've reached number 16 in the lineup, and that is Tom Brennan of Ipswich, former Bellevue rider, highly capable. We all know that. A big night in Manchester would transform an otherwise understated season that Tom's been enjoying, if that's the right word. Nigel, Tom had that leg break just after the end of last season. I sometimes have wondered a couple of times this year if that has affected him more than we might know. And I'm going to suggest, Nigel, that of all the riders in the field, Tom probably needs a result on Saturday night to help define his 26th season.
Yeah, another great lad, Tom. We've had him on here, haven't we? And it's great attitude, great smashing lad and everything. It's just not happened for him this year, has it? I wonder whether it's because he's ended up number 1 for Ipswich, puts a lot of pressure on your shoulders. When you're maybe riding number 3, number 5, you've got that number 1 man, haven't you? I don't say carrying the team, and it won't. I don't know. It's just, it hasn't happened for Tom this year, which is a great shame. It might. I wouldn't like to say it wouldn't happen on Saturday at Bellevue, mind. And I hope it does. It just seems to be having very up and down, doesn't it, Tom, this year? And as you say, the leg break at the end of last year, I don't think that'll have bothered him too much. But, you know, you never know subconsciously, even though he'd probably tell you it hasn't bothered him at all. But maybe subconsciously it has a little bit of a play on you. I don't know. But he's not had the best season, Tom hasn't, this year. But I'm sure he'll bounce back from this. He'll use this as a learning season. He'll bounce back. He's only young yet, isn't he? And Saturday, I would expect him certainly be in a semi-final. And then again, after that, see what happens. You wouldn't be surprised if he was in the final, though, would you? You know, Tom Brennan, he's capable of that.
He is, Nigel. Thanks for that. And listen, we're going to, in the next discussion topic, we will touch on the World Cup final squad, the Team GB squad, and we'll run the rule over what the final team selection might be, and Tom figures in that equation. First reserve, as I understand it, will be Ace Piper of Redcar, the 5th Redcar rider, would you believe, who's going to be in Bellevue on Saturday night. He will be keen. He just returned from injury not so many weeks ago. He'll be keen to get out on track if he gets the opportunity. And in my view, Ace is another rider who is showing steady improvement season on season. So I'm sure he'd love to get the bike dirty. So there we are. Those are the riders. But who will make that winner-takes-all grand final? Who will make the podium, and in what order? We've had a little think. I've asked Nigel and Phil to have a little think, and we're now about to reveal, fingers crossed, our respective predictions. So I'm talking about the final or the top 3 on Saturday night. So Nigel, I'm going to come to you first, give you less thinking time. Who do you think, Nigel, having crunched all the numbers, etc., who do you think the top 3 might be?
That's not fair, is it? Because out of the other 15 after Robert, they're all capable of getting to the final, aren't they? But you can't do this to us, Derek. Obviously, Robert, yeah. I'm looking at it on my phone, actually. I've got the list here. I've got to go with Dan Thompson. Dan's got to get there. You know, again, my thoughts on Dan. I'd have to say Charles Wright as well, really, wouldn't I? And I'll go with an outsider, Danny King.
Lambert, Thompson, Wright and Danny King. So excellent. Okay, thank you, Nigel. That doesn't sound so ridiculous at all. Phil, same question for you, sir.
No, we'll just stick with Nigel's. I just duck out. That's fine. That's all right.
No, you won't, Phil. You're coming in as well on this one.
You can't look past Mr. Lambert, obviously, to win it. I would be very surprised if the podium isn't filled up with 2 past winners. I think Harris, Wright, Ellis, Cook. I've widened the net a little bit there. But the one bloke I think who is capable of actually breaking that is Tom Brennan. I think Tom he's got the minerals, he's got the ability. He's done. In fact, I think he's only had 1 Duff British final, which I think was last year. I think the other years he's been there or thereabouts, even when he was much younger. I think he'll and he's another one who goes there with a lot of motivation. I don't think he's had as bad a season as people think he has. I think he's been messed about atrociously in Poland and Sweden, and I think he's all right. But you don't become a bad rider, and I think Saturday's perfectly poised for him to go out and lay a marker down. So I kind of hope that as well. I want him to do that. But so I know I've hedged my bets a little bit more than Nigel did, but I honestly cannot give you. I just think that the podium should be Chris, Chard after Robert, and maybe Tom sticking his nose in.
Excellent, Phil. Listen, hedging your bets, it's perfectly understandable.
I'll go for a 5th man then. Phil said,
No.
Well, I'll agree with you on that. I hope it's Tom.
Well, just for the record, because I posed the question, I had to take part as well. So I'm going to go for a final involving Robert Lambert, Charles Wright, Dan Thompson and Adam Ellis to finish in that order. So listen, thank you to those of you at home who already declared your predictions on our Facebook page. Not many appear to see past Robert Lambert, but there is a fair mix of Charles Wright, Dan Thompson, Tom Brennan, Adam Ellis and Chris Harris being suggested as the most likely challengers. Over to you, 360 Speeders. If you're watching this before the event on Saturday night, get sharing your own 1, 2, 3 predictions with us below. We dare you. So yeah, if you're going to Manchester, have a great evening. Be loud, be proud, get behind the riders, particularly because we're going to be live on ITV. If you're unable to travel, do make a point of boosting the viewer numbers by tuning in and also follow up by commenting on anything you see in social media. Ideally commenting positively, of course, because you can bet that ITV bosses will be paying lots of attention. Good luck to all the riders. Stay with us for Transport's Lap 2, which will auto start shortly. We'll be covering off several topical discussions, including the SGP, the playoffs, ITV's coverage of Speedway, and we'll be travelling back to 1998. Stay with us.